to PRSay. This is the podcast of the Houston chapter of the Public Relations Society of America. I'm your host, Veronica Sofer. So thrilled to be here with you because we get to introduce you to some of our awesome members in our chapter of PRSay. But before we bring our guest on, I want to remind you that if you are listening on the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss any episodes. And if you are watching on the PRSay Houston chapter Facebook page or YouTube channel, that you drop us some comments so my guest and I can connect with you. We'll go ahead and get started today because I've got an awesome guest. I'm bringing her on now. Ashely Seals is joining us. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Veronica.
So excited that you're here. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself, Ashely.
Well, let's see. I've been in Houston now for almost a decade, which is kind of crazy to think about. I came here
Goes by fast.
It does. It goes by super fast. I'm originally, and you can probably hear it in my voice, I'm originally from Mississippi. So Southern girl at heart, went to Louisiana State University, go Tigers. That is my alma mater. Studied mass communications in their School of Journalism and minored in finance and business. And then I moved over to Houston. Literally, as soon as I graduated, I was like, I'm just going to go to Houston. I'm sure there's some type of opportunity there for me.
Oh, wow.
And so I just kind of winged it. My parents were like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And so I've been here ever since and have never looked back.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So when I first got to Houston, I was working for a small PR agency, a marketing PR agency, very boutique style. And then I moved over to the Houston Grand Opera, where most of my focus was on digital communications. And then I did assist with some public relations and videography. From there, I moved over to the Houston-Galveston Area Council, which is where I am now. Originally, when I joined H-GAC, I was working mostly underneath our workforce and economic development program, doing communications work for them. But then after a couple of years of being with the agency, our executive director decided that he was ready to pull the trigger, and he wanted to create the first internal communications department for the agency, as opposed to using external vendors and contractors to do a lot of our communications marketing work. And so I assisted then my now director, Megan Coughlin, in creating that department. And now it's been going on for almost 4 years now.
Yeah. And you guys do fantastic work. I mean, I've met members of your team, and I'm always impressed with the level of engagement that comes out of your shop. It's really impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you work on. And I'm always fascinated when we talk to folks that have an agency background that are then in public service, or that maybe work for a quasi-governmental agency, because it's so different from agency work.
It's so different, but I will say that I believe that my agency background that I had, not only when I first moved to Houston, but I had some agency in opportunities when I was in college as well. It really helps me out, especially with creating a communications department like we have now for our agency, starting from scratch and trying to figure out what team members are needed, how to do workflows, what's the process for approvals, what are our services, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses. That I would say that agency background definitely helped me out with that transition. But I would say projects right now that we're working on, one of the biggest right now is the Regional Transportation Plan update. And so I know that's a mouthful, but for short, because everyone loves the acronym, we call it RTP. And pretty much it's a document or a plan, a long range plan, a very long range plan that plans out about 25 to 30 years, depending on what's needed, of how we can what projects in our 13 county region do we need to focus on when it comes to transportation? So does that mean in Matagorda County that there needs to be some additional sidewalks added to a certain part of town where there's a lot of pedestrian walking? Does that mean that there needs to be some additional stop signs in a neighborhood because it's a young and upcoming young family community, and they're wanting to keep their children safe? They're playing outside. And those are kind of the smaller projects. It could be even something as big as, the expansion of a highway or an addition of a highway, maybe even. So we pretty much, the RTP plan is where all of those big projects start from the beginning. So they have
Right.
to get into this plan before they can then move on to the next steps to be able to be considered for funding and actually actual implementation. And so
Mhm.
my group with communications, we focus on getting public input for the plan. So in the month of May, in the beginning of June, we actually did a road tour, and we went out to all 13 counties and held
Yep.
and held public meetings to give the public an overview of what actually the plan is and how they can put their feedback in. You know, no matter who it is, no matter what your suggestion, no suggestion is small, no suggestion is too big. What we're pretty much saying, what do you want to see in your county? What's missing? What's going well? What's not going well? And so our goal was to reach out to all 13 of these counties in person, but also through a digital survey that we launched in May as well. I think currently we're probably at the 1,500, maybe getting close to 2,000 mark as far as survey responses. But really, the goal is to make sure that everyone is heard, no matter what county they're from, what age, what communities specifically in their county they're from. We just want to make sure that when we develop this plan that we have truly the input of everyone. And so that's really been one of our biggest projects right now. So yeah.
And you know, it's I applaud the effort, because we like to complain about roads and bridges and infrastructure, but we do have an opportunity as a community to engage, and you guys are charged with the really hard work of trying to get feedback on a really complicated issue, or maybe not so complicated, but one that's not so glamorous.
Yes, exactly.
And so I applaud your work, because it's just so important for our quality of life here in our community.
Yes, and it's, you know, it's been it was a big undertaking, and still is. There's still several phases left in the project as far as getting input from the community, but we've done a lot of hard work in making sure that it's accessible to everyone as well. So meaning whether our public meeting locations, making sure that they're ADA compliant, making sure that we have American Sign Language interpreters there, that we have Spanish translators, and even Vietnamese and Mandarin Chinese if needed. So that's been something that I've really, I think we do really well, is that we make sure that all of our materials, our survey, our meetings, whatever way we're using to communicate that we need your feedback, we're making sure that everyone's included.
Yeah, such important work. Well, I applaud those efforts. So tell me a little bit about what you do for other types of fulfillment as a professional. Obviously, you're involved in PRSay, but what are some of the things that you like to do that really grow your expertise and grow your reach in our space?
Well, I'm a very active member of the Junior League of Houston. I have been a member for about 5 years now, and I've held multiple volunteer roles within the agency, some internal, some more external. That I would say I have been, of course, on the communications team within Junior League, because that's a natural fit. But I've also done a lot of work with Texas Children's Hospital, with a lot of their engagement opportunities with their patients. And I also have done some membership related volunteer placements as well. And so the biggest thing with the Junior League is that its motto, its mission is to train women to be not only good stewards when it comes to philanthropy within their community, but also powerhouse women in the workforce. And so everything that we do, we run everything like a business. We're not just like your regular volunteer organization.
Right.
We have council meetings, we have committee meetings. You have to turn in your memo before 2 weeks before each meeting to make sure that all the information that we want to talk about is on the agenda. We have a lot of training opportunities. We do a lot of talking about, especially diversity inclusion trainings, financial literacy trainings. How do you make a budget for your organization or agency, and how do you manage it? Public speaking, if that's something that you're wanting to, get better at, we have options for that. So the Junior League is definitely my heart and soul, and I pour a lot into it, but I definitely get a lot out of it as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I could tell, because you lit up. And so that's definitely a good sign. And I would definitely say this is not your mama's Junior League, because back in the day, they didn't operate that way. And I know different chapters and different groups, but being able to marry our professional experience now to what we're doing as women in any of the groups we participate in. My heart and soul used to be in Girl Scouts when my girls were little. And And same thing, we stepped up our game because nonprofits are very focused on the work that we're doing. But if we don't implement some of our skills from our corporate life, then you don't get to leverage the benefits of everyone's natural talent. So I think that's fantastic.
Yes, no, I highly encourage any woman that is working and wanting to improve herself in all ways, a junior league chapter is a great place to start.
I love it. Well, good job. So Ashely, how can other PRSay members connect with you? We want to make sure that when you bump into folks at events or awards or whatever event you're participating in, that they have an opportunity to meet you a little bit ahead of time.
Sure. Usually I would say the easiest way to get in contact with me when it comes to anything career related is, of course, through LinkedIn. My name is exactly as it is spelled here. So Ashely Seals, you can find me very easily. I probably am the first one that'll pop up. So yeah, connect with me there.
That's fantastic. Well, Ashely, it was so great to connect, and I look forward to meeting in person because now that everyone's feeling a little bit more comfortable, we've got more events on the schedule. And as a chapter, we're really trying to make sure that we're networking and bringing our best for each other.
Yes, of course.
Awesome. All right, Ashely, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, folks, make sure you go and connect with Ashely. She is on LinkedIn and her information will be in the show notes. So we're going to wrap up this episode. But if you are listening on the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We want you to connect with all the members of PRSay, the Houston chapter. And if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, drop us some comments and Ashely and I will circle back and connect with you. We will catch you on the next episode.